say welcome to this end user updates for all Google Workspace tools. And as always, I'll be doing it retrospectively. So this is for January 2023, all the updates that came out last month. So we're going to kick off straight away. So there have been some improvements to Google Voice features, is the first one, both in docs and in slides. I'm struggling to know exactly what they've improved in this, because I think it's the exclamation mark and the question mark, because I don't ever remember seeing those being available in the past. All the other things seem to have been there already. If you're using the voice typing in Google Docs, you can now say select paragraph, go to end of line. So you've got some additional features in there. But of course, with the voice typing, remember that the voice typing inside Google Slides is only inside the speaker notes section. You can't voice type straight onto a Google slide. If I'm doing that, to do that, I turn the dictation tool on. And then you can dictate straight onto a Google slide if you should want to. Okay, so that's some improvements to the voice typing, and that's AI. So that's only ever going to continue to get better and better as the AI engine learns more and more. So I'm not surprised those things are appearing. This, when I was a teacher, one of the things that when I first moved to my last school, the students had learned all sorts of terrible habits about how to lay things out on a page. And they were forever trying to center things by using the space bar. Drove me mad. And whilst I was there, and then when I first joined the school, they were using Microsoft Office, and someone showed me show non-printing characters in Google, in Microsoft Word. And it was a revelation for me, because I could see exactly what they'd done, so I could tidy it up and put things back and show them how to use the right tool. Yeah, that option of showing non-printing characters has not been an option in Google Docs until now. So you can now see, so if someone's messing around with stuff and it just doesn't look quite right, you can actually show the non-printing characters, work out what they've done wrong, and sort it out for them. It would also be really useful. You might well find, if ever you convert an Excel sheet into a Google Doc, into a Google sheet, Excel sheet into a Google sheet, and sometimes the lining up of text doesn't quite work right. And the same with Google Docs. If you've imported from Word and it's got a complex table, sometimes text gets all sorts of squished, and you can turn the non-printed characters on, see what's gone wrong, and adjust all the spacing in tables and things. So it should hopefully make a big difference to helping people to tidy things up and to identifying what bad habits they've got into. So like I say, if I was still in school, I'd be delighted that had just arrived. So that's that one. It's now easier to make a new conversation in Google Chat. I think what they've done is they've taken out a couple of additional mouse click steps to make the whole process that little bit easier. Yeah, the old tilde view in Word. That's exactly right, Andy. So it's just about this whole thing that, and I think I've said it more or less every month since I noticed it happening. This is Google's attempts to streamline all the things that they do. Look at integration across apps more. So we got your Docs and Chat and Spaces and Meet all in one place in your email interface now. And it's just about them thinking, and the apt tool in Google Docs and things. It's just about them building in efficiencies. And they've noticed there's one too many mouse clicks, and there's a quicker way to do this, and they've just made it a little bit simpler. It's only going to save you a fraction of time, but all these fractions of time, of course, all add up to a substantial saving and mean you're a much more efficient worker. So that's that one. You may well already have noticed Ian's little emojis flying up on the left-hand side there. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you've got a whole array of buttons. There's now a little smiley face. If you click on the smiley face, you'll see that there are a whole series of little emojis that you can now have flying up the screen. If you want to have a little go, now I've mentioned it, we should hopefully see lots of little emojis flying up the left-hand side, little fanfares and smiley faces from Tracy and a quizzical face from John. Am I confusing you, John? I do hope not. So it's kind of quite nice. They're just nice little reactions, just make a difference, don't they? Just keep you all on your toes, and it's nice to see people at least still there. So that's a great little new addition to have there. Keeps us all smiling. Okay, those of you who are using Google Meet tools in your video conferencing suites, There's a transition period now starting 11th of last month until early March, where currently the option that if everyone refuses the meeting apart from one person, nothing happened until very recently when they introduced the option that if everyone refuses the meeting apart from one person, then the room gets released. But it used to be turned off by default, so the admin person had to go in and turn that feature on. So if you do use Google Meet in your video conferencing room, to be aware that it's now on by default, that if everyone declines a meeting, the room will be released. So if you are the organizer of that meeting and you suddenly think, well, I'll just sit in there and work anyway, even though there's nobody there, it gives me a quiet hour or so, that won't be necessarily be the case, because someone else could theoretically book that space because it gets released unless at least one person accepts your invitation. So that's a nice little bit of extra functionality built into the Google Meet tools for video conferencing. So this one, again, is new. This is Education Standard, Education Plus, and Teaching and Learning Plus. So it's not for the fundamentals. That you've now got the option, and you can't see it because I'm sharing my tab, but I can literally just turn on my speaker notes at my end. So if I've made extensive notes inside the speaker notes in a slide deck, I can also have those to look at the same time as seeing the slide deck, and I still don't need to leave the meet, so I still see all your faces and so on and so forth, and any messages that come in and all that kind of stuff. So there is now a beta out there, and I know this will appear tomorrow in the admin one as well, but if you are someone within your organization that's allowed to make shared drives, you can speak to your super admin. You need to be a super admin to apply for a beta with Google. So whoever your admin person is on your domain, they would need to apply for this, and there's a link in the slide to be able to go and apply for it. And it now means that you can move whole folders, which will save, and of course the subfolders in it and the shared, all the content within it. So rather than it being individual files and things. So that seems to me a really handy little thing. Andy, you have a question?
Yeah, just recently, are there some limits on the shared drives now?
There are. In earlier updates, we talked about this, that they were going to work, that you've got to get the limits sorted, otherwise a default limit gets applied, which I think, if from memory, it was in the last month's slide deck. I think it's 100 gigabytes as a default. And if
massive, is it?
Yeah, so that gets set as a default unless you set it yourself in there. So I'm assuming you can now go in and adjust that if you think that's too big. But I think also if you've done nothing with it, there was also a danger that some of the shared drives will become view only. Dave Leonard was mentioning this. In the last month's updates, I'll route it out in a minute when we go to questions at the end. Dave gave us some additional notes about that, which were very helpful, which I put in there. So I'll look them up and share them with you at the end, Andy, if that's okay, just so you know. So yeah, so I think you can go and change it, but it's not. Yeah, it defaults to 100 gigabytes, as John's just mentioned. Thanks for that, John. Okay, those of you who have set appointments with me, you will know this, that I use this tool for all my calendar appointments. We used to use the one that was built into our customer relationship management software called HubSpot for a little while. And it wasn't ideal because, one, it didn't put in a Google Meet automatically every time. It accepted them automatically, and there might well be times when you want to renegotiate, which was also a bit of a nuisance if you didn't spot it and things. But the calendar one is brilliant. I've got 2 calendar schedules running. I've got a 60-minute calendar schedule and a 30-minute calendar schedule, so you can have multiple ones. So if you are someone who gets asked for appointments and meetings with other people a lot, you can just say, well, have a look at my calendar, and they just see a version of your calendar which only gives the available times. You can set spaces between them, so you haven't literally got to go from meeting to meeting to meeting. You can give yourself a little bit of a breather in between. You can set it to automatically add in a Google Meet when the person makes the appointment, because of course there's 2 people in there or not. So it's really, really handy, and I use them loads. And like I say, I've got a 30-minute meet that I send out for people if it's something quick, and a 1-hour meet if it needs a little bit more time. So you can now check multiple calendars. So if you've got a whole load of events that you know you're part of, but they happen to sit on a separate calendar, which of course is on your calendar view, so you can see it and you can manage it. you want that to be visible or to be part of the booking process when you share your calendars, have appointments booked. So, Andy, yes.
Quick question on that. When I've had a look at that before, it seems, can you only do it for a certain time slot, or is it you're on appointment schedules all the time, or you're not?
No, well, like I said, I've got a 30-minute time slot and a 60-minute time slot. I'm trying to think what I did, whether it was a drop-down list of fixed times or you can specify. No, I'm sure you can specify time because people use it for parents' evenings.
Yeah, so you don't need to keep turning it on and off, or do you?
Oh no, you can just leave it on. Yeah,
leave it on and just have it for a particular day over a particular range of times.
Yeah,
okay.
I got mine set to be the next 90 days. So it's on a rolling program, so it just keeps moving along. So it just constantly updates mine. But you can actually set it for a specific time slot.
Right.
Yeah, and you can specify how long each meeting session is, and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Paul, is it? I know we mentioned it last month. Is it worth maybe running through a quick demo of that at the end? Is that something that we can do once we've gone through the slide deck? I know we've started to do that a little bit now. This is something that comes up of interest that somebody's not 100% on. Just a quick demo, just to clear everything up. That'll be great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can do that. No problem. Excellent. Thanks for that question, Andy. Okay, so I'm really disappointed this one isn't available. I got Chris to jump on a meet for 5 minutes earlier because I thought this is really neat. So I'm still inside the meet. I can see all your faces, all your screens. I'm managing the movement of my slides inside the meet. Eventually there's going to be a share button will appear. You can just about see it in the little GIF that I've created there. On the right hand side of my little lozenge, there'll be a share button, and I'll be able to share this slide deck with you through the in-chat messages, in-call messages inside a Google Meet. That seems really neat. Now, of course, those who don't attend today, Chris will still very kindly send them out, and it does a great job of doing that. But those that are here will have it instantly. So if you think, oh, I want to get on that beta for moving those folders straight away, then you can then go in and get that. So I was really disappointed it's not here this morning for me to be able to actually do that as a demo, but it hopefully will be here shortly. And that seems to me really, really neat. And it's that back to that thing that I said earlier. It's about thinking, well, Google is saying, well, what's the most efficient way to work? Yeah, you are busy showing a presentation. You might say, well, actually, I best share this with you all now. So eventually that button will appear and you'll be able to share from within the Meet without having to go anywhere else, without having to change tabs or any of those things. I'll be able to share this slide deck. Hopefully I'll be able to do it next month. Well, I'm certain I will, but it's not there yet. I've got, like I say, I've got my Meet. What I have got in here, which wasn't an announcement in Google, and I don't know why it wasn't, but it's appeared now, is I've got a link that takes me to the link on the slide deck. So if I wanted to read more about a particular thing on that slide deck, I could click the link. It would take me to that link, show me what I needed to show, so I'd have a little bit more information about that particular presentation. So that's to come. It's not on mine. It might be on yours, because if those of you who don't know, when a new function comes out, it normally gets rolled out over about 15 days. That's the normal pattern. So you might not necessarily have all of these things at the moment, but they will appear sometime soon. So that's the share button inside the slide presentation inside Google Meet. It's like things inside things inside things. Okay. I checked this. I didn't check it this morning, actually. I checked this on Friday, and it's not on our domain yet. But at the moment, it's a little bit of a clunky way to manage membership inside Google Spaces. And that is going to change, and you'll be able to go in there and add and remove people far easier than you have done in the past, and look at all the settings within that particular space. So yeah, it's not hugely terribly designed at the moment, but it is a little bit clunky in terms of adding people in there and removing them and things, whereas this just a little bit then nicer interface, and it will be a full screen, whereas at the moment it's a little pop-up window that sits in front of the space whilst you're managing it. So it will go to a full screen, and there'll be an improved interface. We use Spaces a lot. I can't recommend them enough. We find them enormously useful. So the C-Learning team chat, for example, includes everything from, hopefully at some point today, a picture of a puppy and a pig. You don't need to know why, but we also do work stuff in there. So it's like the banter that might go across an office, if you like. And as we're a distributed workforce, we never have had an office. We always work from home if we're not in schools or in conferences or traveling. It actually works really well for us. And it just takes some of those messages that would ordinarily clog up your inbox to a different place, because they can be dealt with in a different way. You don't need the formality of email. So if you've never used Spaces, I would recommend you look at them. And they need managing, like all these things, that like the conversations in an office needs managing, but they're enormously useful tools. So a new interface to manage the settings inside those spaces.
Just
go, Chris.
Yeah, just a quick question again about what exactly is Spaces there. We've just had, so I don't know if that's something else you can possibly just show a little bit later.
We'll do that. Yeah, we should have time. Yeah, we're not even at 1:30. Yeah, we should have time for both. I'm just going to make a quick note so don't forget. Calendar and Spaces. Yeah,
that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. No, thanks for that, Chris.
You want to just mention what that was previously, Paul? Because it was sort of that was chat originally, I think, wasn't it? It's part of, isn't it?
Chat is the generic term for. It's like Google's chat tool. And Spaces is basically a way to get. It's the way you can actually have a group of people in a chat. So I could have Chris and Ian and Steve, or other colleagues, or even in a chat inside the chat tool. But if you want a more kind of formal thing, what Spaces gives you the option to give it a name. You can start to add files and start to add tasks. So it's got a little bit more functionality, and it's intended as that kind of a project work type thing, or that office team type conversation. And the other thing that you can do in there is you can also have external people in there, which is really handy. So if you're working across a project, so currently we've got an event coming up in towards the end of February in Ireland, and I've got me and the C Learning team in there, and all the presenters for there, and the kind of director of the education training board out there and things, and the head of the school. So all the people that are in there, and I can put in regular posts in there and set them tasks and things, rather than it being an endless stream of emails, because I think it means the emails get used for other things. So we'll look at chat Spaces and calendar towards the end, if that's okay. When you add a file into Spaces, in the past it would say how did you want to share it. That was always there, but it never actually showed you the name of the space that you were sharing it in. And if you look at the screen here, you can see at the top it says share with demo, so that's the name of that chat space. So it just allows you to see who you're sharing it to, I suppose, just for you to double check you're sharing it to the right space, because it does happen that you put messages in the wrong places sometimes and people get very confused. So it just tells you who you're sharing it with, which is kind of quite handy. So Looker is what used to be called Data Studio. It's still out there. It's still brilliant. I really encourage you to go and have a look at it. It's a fantastic tool. Does all sorts of clever things. But what you can now do is you can actually now kind of connect Looker to what they're calling connected sheets. So if there's a kind of logical reason why you need to present that data to the people you're going to share it with via a sheet, you can actually, wherever the data's come from in Looker, you can actually connect it to a Google Sheet, and then you'll be able to see that data inside the sheet for them to be able to see it. And the example they've got there is if you wanted to run it into a pivot table, you can actually do that, and they could then manipulate the pivot table inside that data, but they couldn't affect the original data, or they couldn't affect the Looker Studio report. So it's a different way to present it, and for that time when that data needs presenting in a sheet rather than in Looker Studio. Looker Studio is like a data visualization tool. It allows you to show it as charts and graphs and filterable tables and things. So it's just another way to view that same piece of information. So a few of the things that have come up of late that are worth looking at. This is from Applied Digital Skills. Applied Digital Skills is a whole series of lessons and activities freely available for anyone, whether you are a Google school or not. And they've got a load of things in there currently about Black history, cultural identity, in preparation for Black History Month. Do please make sure you click through and read them, because I was thinking the other day that there's lots of references to US things, but actually the activities are perfectly valuable to do in whatever country you happen to be in. So they're easy to adapt to make them, to localize them, I suppose is the thing to say. So lots of really nice ideas in there about the kinds of things you might do quite legitimately to celebrate Black History Month, which is coming up soon. This is also arts and culture. Google's arts and culture. For those of you who don't know, Google's arts and culture is just a phenomenal resource for a whole load of things, of famous people, famous events, artists, art movements, Medium, Google Places, and they keep posting more and more resources. And they've just posted a whole load of stuff about the Lunar New Year, and there's some really nice resources in there for you to have a look at. So another resource to feed your curriculum, I suppose. Is that? And those are the updates from January 2023. I'll put a link into the chat for arts and culture in a moment, Tracy. Okay. Next update is Monday, the 6th of March. So do please come along to that. Any questions about the updates so far before I quickly show you a Google Calendar and a Spaces demonstration? You can raise your hand at the bottom. You can post a question in the chat. There's been lots of chat going on. Is this about the default? All right, yeah, okay. So I'll root out last month's slide deck because he's got some notes in there about that, so that you know what's going on. Any other questions? No. Okay, so I'm going to stop presenting there. I'm going to go to chat spaces. I'm just going to go to here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. Just need to share a slightly different space. Okay. So here I am in, this is our demonstration account, our trainee account, and that we use for all the training that we do. And you'll notice now, if you haven't already noticed it, you've got all your 4 main things that I've just mentioned earlier, your mail, chat, spaces, and meet, all in one place in your interface, which is really neat. I used to have my mail open as a pinned tab, my calendar open as a pinned tab, and chat opens a pinned tab and flip between them. So other than calendar, which I've got elsewhere, don't forget, which is over here on the right hand side, there's my calendar. So I've now got the calendar and meet and spaces and chat all in my email interface. So I don't need to go anywhere else, which is brilliant. It really suits me. I can flip between them really quickly. Third one down on the left here is spaces. And it's just somewhere to have a group conversation. Okay, so if I go and create a new space, I'm going to call it demo. Oops, delete, can't spell. Oh no, wait. Yeah, that's okay. Come on. I missed the button. So yeah, I'm going to create a space. I'm going to call it demo delete. Okay. In the process of doing it, ordinarily I would keep it restricted. You can just restrict it just to anyone within your organization. So if this was a staff chat, you would send an invitation out anyway to invite them to join, but you could just make it default that they could just see it and then just choose to join off their own bat because they're part of your organization. But that is all of C-Learning, so that if you've got chat turned on for your students, you might well find students joining. If you've got chat turned off, then they won't find it, of course, but if you haven't. But restricted is probably where I would go more ordinarily. As I said earlier, you've got the option to allow people outside the organization, which is handy for a whole host of different reasons. And then the other little bit that I always do is I organize the conversation by topic. If you don't do that, all the chat becomes one long string. And, you know, within the first 2 or 3 days, that won't be a problem. But very quickly, within a few days, you'll start to get a huge, great big long string. And it becomes really difficult to find things. So just to be aware that you can organize things by topic. And if you organize things by topic inside chat now, if you've not been in there for a few days and you go in, Google's AI engines will now summarize the conversations that you've missed below and then give you a sense of what conversation threads have been running whilst you've been away, and just let you know what kind of things being chatted about. Okay, so once you've done that, I'll add Chris in because I know Chris is in there. there's an external person, and then I'll add that one as an internal person. So I've got, and then I'll add sound trap. So you can add as many people as you like. I think I can't remember the limit now, but I have it in my head. It's over 1,000. And then, as I said, the things that you've got, I've got the option to add in files. And when I add in a file, so if I just add in the one I'm currently working on, I'll just choose one. That one there will do. Insert it. Okay. That will then, when I post that, it prompts me to say, well, how do you want to share it? So I can decide what level of access I give to the people inside that organization. I can set tasks. And I can actually assign it to an individual within that group, and it just lists the people that are in it. So there's Chris. So it just allows me to kind of manage, you know, a project or just things that you need managing. Other things that we do a lot inside the chat, if you look down here where the conversation bit is, there's Chris replying, thanks Chris, is I can actually add a video meet, and Chris and I could join a video meet. I can also do a calendar invitation. So it will look at my calendar and it'll send the calendar invitation into this Google chat. So everyone inside the chat will see they've been invited to a Google Calendar. I can upload files and so on and so forth. So it's a great little tool that takes some of the conversations that don't necessarily need that kind of formal audit trail that you would put through in an email into another space. And we use this extensively both within our organization, but also outside the organization for other customers that we work with. We have chat groups that we support and regular post to, and you know, if they ask questions, we can respond to them in there and things. So they're a really, really handy little tool that we use a great deal.
Yeah, I think for things like the setting up a quick video call, we do this all the time, don't we, Paul? If there's, you know, literally you can just drop it. It's just straight in there. You can get on it. There's things that almost don't need to be emailed because it's too much hassle. Whereas with chat, it's always open. We have it running down the sidebar. We're literally, it's like a conversation. It's that easy, isn't it? It's like talking to somebody across the office, like you say, if you're working, you know, away from somebody, not necessarily in the same building or the same office. It's yeah, it's a phenomenal tool. I love it. It's great. Easy to use as well. Intuitive. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully you can now also see this calendar, and I'm going to do an appointment scheduler. So in the create bit, if I do, let me do Andy's first. So let's say we've got a parents' evening on Wednesday. Come on, oh, I'm getting rid of it. There we go. Okay, so parents' evening on Wednesday. I'll just make it for a little bit longer, so we can see something else. And I'm going to choose, let's say, parents. Oops. Parents' evening, and I'm going to choose appointment slots here. Okay, so you can then decide on how long each appointment slot is, just by doing that or by typing it in. Okay, and then I would go save. So that's an appointment slot. If I then click on there, you'll find there's a link. I'm going to open the link and I'll share this tab instead. And you can then see, hopefully, there are all my parents' evenings time slots all inside there. And that's what the parents would see. I'm logged in as myself, so I can see all the other bits of things that are in here. But I can actually, if I click on that, it creates the event, puts my name in it, go save. If I then go back to my calendar and share this tab, so I'm back in my calendar now. I'm just going to refresh the calendar. And there you can see, look, there's that event that I just booked with this teacher. The Google Meet's already in it. So if it's a parents' evenings, you can just do an appointment slot whereby just creating a calendar item and putting it in there. Okay. The other thing that we've got in the create button is, it's going back to slots. Why is it doing that? I'm going to go to my own email, my work email. For some reason, it's not doing what it should there. I'm going to go to my work calendar, and discard that. Let me go back to my work. Dismiss. Let me go back to there. There we go. Okay. Here we go. So I don't know why it said appointment slots and appointment schedule here. So it could just be because this is a business account. It could just be different language. Okay, I'm just going to block that for a moment. So I've clicked on the create button, chosen appointments schedule.
Paul?
Yeah.
Just watch your screen. Are you still in? There we go. That's the one. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
See it now.
So I'm gonna discard and start again. Sorry, I'd forgotten to share this tab. So in the create button on the right, click on the drop down, select appointment schedule. I'm going to call this demo so I know to delete it later. Okay. You can then decide on the duration here. And in here, if you look, you can see you've got the option to go to custom. So you can choose to make them, whatever length you like. It's entirely up to you. It won't let me do 14. That's interesting. Is it a minimum? All right. So 15 is the minimum, but I can do 16. So it can be, a strange amount. Mark when you're available. I've set mine to 90 days here. Look, see maximum time. So that this is how far ahead they can book. So because, I give this to our customers and all our schools and colleges. Yeah. And then I think I've set the minimum time to 12 hours. So they can't book it less than 12 hours ahead. I mean, they can email me and say, Paul, have you got any time this afternoon? Of course they can. But actually, if you've got plans for that day and suddenly someone's booking your appointment an hour later, I was going to do this and I forgot to put it in my calendar, then it just gives you a little bit of leeway. So you can decide, again, how far in advance they have to book it. So they can't book it literally that very, very day. You can add in a buffer zone between appointments. So you can say between each appointment, I want, and if you look now, if I leave it at 30, you can see really clearly, it's put these little gray boxes in so someone can book a time and then there's a gap in between and each of those gaps will be 30 minutes. I can then also say I want to schedule a specific number a day. So if someone's booked the 10 o'clock and the 12 o'clock and the 2 o'clock and the 4 o'clock, then all the others would disappear. So no one else could book anything else. So you can decide, how many in a day you want. Here's where you can have multiple calendars. This is the new functionality that came out last month. So if I've got lots of events in another calendar that I want to include, then that would also get included in it. Then go next. Okay, so location and conferencing. I set mine because almost all my meetings are online. So if another person makes the appointment, it automatically adds a Google Meet at that point.
Just got Andy with his hand up, I think, Paul.
All right, okay. Yes, Andy?
Yeah, just a quick question there. He said other calendars. Are they other calendars as sub-calendars of yours or just any other calendar?
I think it's any calendar that's shared with you, I think.
All right, okay.
Let me just where's it gone? Oh, it's the previous. It was wait. Where's it put it now? Am I going mad? Calendar invitation. I'm going to find that again in a minute. But yeah, you can be any calendar that's shared with you. I'm sure of it.
Okay.
I remember reading that. Okay. So in the booking form, it asks for first name, surname, email address. In the one I've got, I've added a custom item, which is so just ask them to tell me what the meeting's going to be about, because I've shared my calendar with lots of people. It might be they've had it for a little while. They go back to it on another completely different topic to the other one. So for me, that's really handy that I can do that. Okay. You can get reminders in exactly the same way you're building reminders on all your calendar items, if that's a tool that you use. So you get a reminder that's going to happen, and then you go save. And you can now see, now I've got 3 there. If I just close that down for a second, you can see on my calendar I've got 3 scheduled calendar things. That one is my 30 minutes one, which I send out to some people. That one's my 60 minutes one, and this one is the one I've just done for the purpose of demonstrations. And I just go share and copy that link and pop it in an email for people to make appointments. So it's just really a handy kind of way to manage your appointments. I'm going to delete that one now so I don't send it out accidentally. Was that a bleep for another question?
Yeah, it's really good, that.
Yeah, I think it is a brilliant tool. And if, like, you know, if someone's asking for time, your time, to be able to manage it a little bit better. The thing you've got to remember to do is remember to keep your calendar fully up to date. So if you think, well, I'm going to be doing this afternoon, but you don't put it in that you're going to be doing that, then the calendar thieves will come and take that time off you. So just to be aware, it makes you think more carefully about your calendar time. One of the things that we as a team have started to use more now is use the focus time option.
Yeah.
So when you create a calendar, when you create an event, you've got an option to go to focus time. It's just like a visual clue to all your colleagues saying, look, you know, in an emergency, do please give me a ring, but I just need to get on with some tasks. So if you can avoid disturbing me, then please do so. So it's really, really handy. So, you know, right across the team, more and more we're using that, because there's just times when you just need to get on. So it's a really great little tool, that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good one. I'm just thinking off the top of my head there, but I mean, that replaces things like Calendly, and is very similar to your HubSpot booking appointment thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fresh Desk. So it'll be useful for some of our senior leadership team who have sort of a high degree of contact with parents to maybe post that on the website as, you know, this is when, if you want to book a 20-minute, half an hour session with them on a Tuesday or a Thursday evening or something, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if your senior leadership have got PAs, and you know they've got a Google form on your website to request a meeting with, you know, the principal or the head.
Yeah.
That goes to their PA. The PA looks at their calendar and books it on that person's behalf.
Yeah, no, it's good.
You know? So there's all sorts of ways that it could be used, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Very powerful.
Parents, I used the old appointment slots for my last 2 parents' evenings at my last school, because it was a relatively new thing then, because it's been a while since I've been in school. It was fantastic, because it meant that the student could go home, say to the parent, say, Mum, what kind of time can we get there? Well, I can do that one, I can do that one. And the paper ones that the kids have were never in order, so they never got it right. They got confused about where they were going, because they just write, you know, the first meeting at 3 o'clock and then the next meeting at 7 o'clock, and then you'd get in the right pickle with a piece of paper. Whereas that way it was just really, really handy. So it's a great tool.
Yeah, we use the TES tool at the moment for doing our parents' evenings, because it works across a number of teachers and students, so they're not double booked. Whereas I guess this element would be good for one-on-ones, but if you're having 20 teachers and a load of parents, you could have double book sessions if you order it separately. So good functionality, more to come, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, Andy. Any other questions about anything else?
Just wanted to talk a bit about spaces and chat.
Yeah, go for it.
Just wondered about everybody else, whether their senior leadership team. I have this phrase that I use quite disparagingly within school, and I call it email and document land, which is a cultural behaviour of I send everything by email or a document, and I don't use a lot of the integration and communication and collaboration tools within Workspace, and I think that's where we're at. We're at the sort of starter or learner phase rather than the world-class element of integration.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the integration has got very substantially better in the last sort of 18 months. So I think we've kind of got some catch up to, haven't we? I think. Yeah, we've kind of. So I've just posted. I'll show the results. Just posted a poll in the poll tool. Can you all answer the question whether you're using chat or not? Be handy to know. So I've got one yes from one person.
I guess the question there is, are we using it singularly or across our organisation?
That was going to be my next question. So we've got 5 people have said yes, 3 have said yes, and 2 have said no currently. So for those who are using it, I'm using org for organisation, just to save me type in the whole thing. Can't type. There's another one there now. So is it used across the whole organisation? I'll end the first one. So 3 said yes, 2 said no. So of those 3 that said yes, the question was, is it used across the whole organisation? And all 3 have said no. So I'm assuming then they've got little pockets of it. All right, thanks for that, Steve. Steve just put a link in the chat to compare Calendly with Calendar Appointment Scheduler, so you can look at the 2. Yeah, I think that we get into it's too easy to get into habits that aren't the most efficient, isn't it? And I think that's part of the challenge. And certainly, I mean, I don't know what Ian feels, that when we first started, we were all those years ago when we both had lots more hair, or his hair wasn't silver and I actually had some hair. We barely used chat at all. Everything came through email, and it was Hangouts then. And as we grew, we started to use Hangouts a little bit more. But I would say we're chat junkies now. We're chat and space junkies now. We use it loads. So good.
I'll just come in and speak to that. I think my Wi-Fi is playing up, so apologies. Just on that, Andy, I think it is definitely a cultural thing. I think if your ambition is to communicate in different ways, and most effective ways for the team member, I'd definitely have a think about that and communicate, I suppose, the why with each individual. Why is it that they're traditionally still using the tools that are impacting on the environment? But I suppose if the ambition is to save money and be more effective and more efficient, the conversation can be, while we're still sharing things on email that might not be a link, that might be an actual document, the impact on that is, how do they download it if the ambition is to remove a P drive, H drive, and on-premise storage for those kind of documentation? So I think it's thinking about what you want to achieve and communicating that effectively. But it does have to come from the top, and the executive leadership team have to be all one in regards to what their ambition is, why they want to get to that point, and then effectively communicating it across. Because unless a decision is made, it'll be a difficult one, and people will always think, well, because I've not been told I have to, or this is the way that we go in, I can continue to do things the way that we've always done it, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Steve. I think it's old horse and water, isn't it, really?
Speaking of horses, the Bob Harrison thing of, if you wanted people to, if you ask people what they want quicker horses. That's the whole thing of how do you change that narrative to want the motor car or the electric vehicle as it is now. Apologies for cutting you off there, mate. Carry on. Sorry, buddy.
No, it's that paradigm shift for people saying, well, what is it? What's in it for me? Because they're locked into a way of communication and it's comfort zone. And breaking out of something is really hard for a lot of people, and a lot for the senior leadership team. They like things to be quite traditional, certainly in our workplace. And there are a lot of useful things, and they're nodding, but not adopting those new behaviours, really. But I think, some of the challenges that certainly going to face us in the current, climate of certainly in a private school like ours is, we have to get better and faster and cheaper at what we do. So those challenges will come, that we need to create those efficiencies as a business, to survive. And it comes down to that adaptability and that survival, really. So yeah, it's about getting them on the table, opening the mindsets, and seeing if there's an easy way and a quick win for them, really, that they then feel they can take forward.
And what is their pain point? The pain point of the head teacher or the principal would be very different to the bursar, and will be very different to something else. And it's then thinking, right, what does the head teacher, through your conversation, want to achieve, and why is it that they would move? And it might be different to the business manager or the bursar that then says, oh, well, we need to save money. Well, let's remove the ability to move off premise. And the best way to do that is Gmail and chat and spaces. And more than happy to support as always, Andy. I think our coffee catch up is long overdue, mate. So and we're not a million miles away. So let's pick up that conversation if there's any support or help in terms of tackling that.
Yeah, lovely, thanks.
Yeah, more than happy.
I don't know if you remember from last month, Andy. We talked about the future of education. These new reports from Google. Let me get the link. And I think there's some really interesting things out in there, because one of the first things it starts to talk about is what skills do we want to instill in our learners that are needed when they eventually leave education and go into the world of work. And I think it's quite telling. You do create as a tick list and say, well, how are we doing? You think actually, and I think lots of institutions would say, yeah, we're doing okay with this bit and that bit, but there are still some areas where we're not really preparing them for the world of work. And it's not to say that education hasn't got value in and of itself, but it's not delivered in a vacuum, is it? Of course it's not. No. So we need to be looking ahead all the time. And we do them a huge disservice if we haven't given those students the skills that they need. And I put the link to that in, or maybe that's not the right link because it's a YouTube link. Oh yeah, it's the Future of Education link. I think I might give you the right one.
Yeah, I think for me, there's an earlier foundation of that. I think the government in 2010 released their sort of digital strategy for the workforce as a whole across the UK about basic digital skills that every adult and every child should have. And I often pull that out. I think it was sort of resurrected and dusted off and updated in about 2018. That's a good. If I can find that, in one of our future meetings, I'll share that. But that covers all the skill sets and competencies that, Joe Public or Joe Schoolboy, school child, whatever you want to call them, needed, and in the workplace. And it was a good reference point.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to hi Dave, by the way, I noticed has arrived. I'm going to use your notes from last month's about the shared drives limit. So yeah, you were told you ideally set the limits for yourself. After the function is released, and it probably is released by now, the default will be 100 gigabytes, as John quite rightly said in the meeting earlier. But any that exceed that limit will become view only. So you'll need to then go in and change those, because people won't be able to get to the files they want to get to. So if there was already some very large shared drives in your organization, then they will definitely need some attention now. And thanks again to Dave for those notes. They were very helpful.
Cool. Sorry, I was a lot late to this meeting. I didn't think you'd still be on here, to be honest, when I jumped on, but I was caught up at one of our schools and lost track of time. But it sounds like you've been having a good chat from what I've seen on the text chat there from Steve.
We have, and you've been referenced.
Oh dear. That's never normally a good sign, is it?
Always a good sign, Dave. Always a good sign, mate.
Yeah. Excellent. Any other questions about any other areas that?
Can I ask a question to those people on the call, if that's all right? Just interested, just to gauge the audience and customers attending. Who's attending, Bet, either yourselves or somebody from your organisation? I'd be interested just to hear Dave, a regular attender. And Dave, I'm sure, will be doing insights in regards to Arbor and many other things. And I know that you're connected into the A&ME network as well, Dave, and attending on behalf of the school as well. And anybody else?
Nothing. No, probably not from Tracy.
Yeah, John.
John's pondering.
Okay.
Yeah, I've not been for quite a while now, but which are the best 2 days to go for?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think, Andy. The best days to attend, I think, are those. No, I think...
Don't attend the Monday, whatever you do.
Let me have a look at that, because they might have shifted it. There was always an international day. Last year it didn't really exist. There used to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday is a long day, so actually there's a lot of free drink and lunch from many different vendors, Tracy. And thanks for asking that question. There's lots of different stuff. There's coffee shops and drinks. There's loads of different things going on. And if anybody's down there and wants a coffee and a catch up with myself or any member of the Sea Learning team, reach out to us if you're going to be there, and we'd love to. The coffee and the cake and everything else is on us. We want to hear what's going on, and it's always good to catch up face to face if you're down there. But I'll touch base with you, Andy, and anybody else, because I need to just confirm what the international day is, because they have shuffled that around. I think it might be the Wednesday, but I'm not 100% sure. So it might be Thursday, Friday, the best day.
Are they having a late night session this year, Steve? I thought I'd heard that wasn't happening.
They are. I think it's not going to be as late as what it was, but there is talk that it's going to be, I think, drinks. So it's not going to be necessarily demonstrations and everything else, but I think the hall will be open and there'll be some drinks on stands and things like that if you're connected to any supplier or any agency that are showcasing at the Bet. But I think it's invite only, kind of. But just to be honest, everybody will get invited if you purchase something from a tech company. Let's be fair. I don't think it's an exclusive club, and if it is, let us know, and I'm sure we'll try and get you an invite to one of the clubs if anybody's up for a coffee or anything else. But yeah, great stuff.
Just in case there's anyone on the call who's not really familiar with it, I've heard of it but not quite sure, it's basically a giant, great big, massive tech show. There are talks and keynotes that you can go and listen to, of course, and some of those are excellent. But actually, just to be aware that if you've got major purchasing plans in place, it's actually a good place to go, because you can see a great deal of the kit that you might want to see all in one place. And of course, you can do it all on the web, and it's a perfectly good way of doing it. But actually, sometimes you just want to get your hand on stuff, don't you? And if you're thinking about that, then talk to us, because we can kind of be your guide and make sure you get to the right stands, because we've navigated this monster of a thing many years, so you don't end up getting waylaid by 700 pens from one stand to the next. We can get you efficiently from place to place without you having to worry about all the other stands in between.
Apologies for sharing the same link there. Just so you know, Bet have changed their approach as well, and if you do not book on by the 3rd of March, there will be a fee, that's what they've said. So even if you're unsure, the ticket's free. Book on ahead of the 3rd of March deadline, and then even if you don't go, at least you're not incurring a cost or anything for a ticket. I think they're trying to gauge the size of the audience, because there's now a function for businesses to have one-to-one meetings or something. We don't have a stand. We work with our partners who will be there across the team. But yeah, if you're thinking about it, considering it, definitely book on ahead of that deadline. I'd hate to think that somebody would just miss it and then think, oh, I'm going to go, and they then have to pay for a ticket to Bet, which seems crazy in my opinion to do so. But I can understand from a business point of view.
Excellent.
See, a cynic may say that they were just trying to get the numbers up early doors so that they could sell more floor space to suppliers. But thankfully, I'm not a cynic, so I won't be suggesting that.
We wouldn't suggest that.
Yeah, or I'm trying to make more money, Dave. Do you know, who knows? But I don't think we believe that and would ever say that on the call. Or maybe we just.
Especially not once it's being recorded.
We'll remove it from the transcript, Paul, if you can just review that.
Edit rights.
Yeah, perfect.
For a fee, of course, Dave. For a fee.
Just make sure it's cheaper than the ticket if you buy it after the 3rd of March.
Yeah.
I signed up early, so I'm hoping to get it for free.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent. Good. Well, if there are no other questions, I will say thank you very much for coming along. It's been a lovely session. Some great chats. I do love these sessions because it gives us a